Hello, welcome to Nakti by j.N.S. And today we continue with the Black American series. And we are on part 16, which is Black American Inventions in Science. So we are going to talk about what has the Black American contributed to the world in spite of everything that has been done to us and thrown at us. Now, the Black American has multiple and numerous inventions as a collective, over 3,500 to be exact. So while we won't cover all 3,500 in this video, we're going to cover enough. We're going to cover many inventions that are in use daily by the whole world that is patented by a Black American. So let's begin. So as we're going through each inventor, take note of what they have done. Write down their names and remember that these are our ancestors, Black people. These ancestors, they watching over us. Some of them are going to still be alive, but these people, they need to be in the forefront of our culture. They need honor, and we thank them for their genius and their excellency. So these are our ancestors and still loved ones that we uphold in our society. And they are going to now be the focus of our culture going forward, because that same genius that is in them is the same genius that is still in you today. So as you're learning about these inventors, keep in mind to be sending them good energy and to be thanking them for their prowess, their mental prowess, as well as be inspired. Because I'm inspired when I go through our information. So I know you're going to be inspired too. So let's begin. So the first inventor that we're going to talk about is Frederick McKinley Jones. And now, he was around in the 1940s. And Frederick McKinley Jones invented the refrigerated trucks. So basically, you know how you have the food has to be refrigerated in the truck before it goes to the local grocery store. And that's the process that keeps the food, preserved. And that is credited to the Frederick McKinley Jones. He's a Black American. And guess what? He has more than 60 patents throughout his life, including a patent for the roof mounting cooling system that used to refrigerate goods on the trucks during, the extended transportation in the 1930s, which I was just telling you about. And he got this invention in 1940. He co-founded the Thermo Control Company, which was known as Thermo King. And guess what? They needed this company during World War II to help preserve the blood, food, and supplies during the war. So don't ever let nobody tell you, Black American, oh, y'all just was there, y'all didn't do that ever, America. This invention literally helped World War II preserve the blood for the war. So we thank you. We thank you so much, Frederick McKinley Jones, for your contribution to humanity and to the world. So let's move on. So now we have the home security system made by Mary Brown in 1966. So before security systems became a fixture in homes, Mary Brown, she was a nurse and she wanted a security unit for her home because she was at home alone in Queens, New York, because her husband was away. And she felt unsafe because of these niggas was robbing and doing all types of stuff in her neighborhood. So she also said that those police, they were unresponsive. They weren't doing their job. So she created a device to put her mind at ease and created that home security system and got a patent for it so that she could help all citizens feel safe in their homes with that, that bell, that loud alarm for AT&T and all of that. We thank you, Mary Brown, for this invention, because without you, many people wouldn't feel safe at home, especially these women. We all got alarms on our door. So thank you. So now we're going to talk about Alexander Miles. And he made the automatic elevator doors. This was invented in 1887 by the Black American. And we use these elevators every day, and to avoid those grueling climbs. But before elevator doors, they had to, everything was manual, like that. You know how they used to actually have someone that had to like pull us up and pull us down, and it was not automatic. So he decided a process to get it automatic, where you don't need that elevator guy that go in there with you and close the door for you and do I think he pulls on something to lift it up and all that. That was done due to Alexander Miles. So we thank our ancestor for his contribution to humanity. So now we move on to the electric microphone, which was co-invented by James E. West in 1964. So we love the microphone. We use it to communicate so far and wide. And his contribution to that microphone is actually 90%. Is still used to this day. 90% of what his composition of the science of how the microphone will work is still used in phones and cameras to the tune of 90%, even in today's society. So this is what he invented, and again, we thank you so much, and we love you as our ancestor. So now we're going to talk about Louis Vladimir, who invented the carbon light bulb filament in 1881. So all of your light bulbs around, that filament, that was invented by Louis Vladimir. And everybody says, oh, the light bulb was invented by Thomas Edison. But guess who worked for him? The black man named Louis Vladimir in 1881. So that the filament is what made the light bulb. And guess what? Vladimir was the son of runaway slaves. So you see how they try to diminish this genius by trying to put them in as slaves. But his parents ran away from slavery, and look what he was able to do when he don't have that oppression. Even with that oppression, look what he still did. Because he was working in a patent law firm, and he also did serve in the Civil War. And people started realizing that he had amazing talent, drafting skills, and he was the head draftsman. And he co-invented an improved bathroom for railroad trains. So you see how they do our people. They know that they got the smoke and they got the skills and the intellect, but don't want to benefit. They want to benefit off of it, but it's like, if you just leave them alone, they won't be. The power shift will reverse. I was telling y'all about that in the last videos. The reason why, knowing good and hell well that black people have the science, mathematics that got us into NASA. As far as that's when we talk about the hidden figures ladies and all that stuff. But all these inventions that I'm telling you about, and the same people that know how to build the Sphinx and the damn pyramids that's locked in their epigenetics and their cell memory, knowing good and hell well that the world could contribute and benefit off of that, they figure, like, rather than have the power shift in their favor like that, just keep them oppressed and sabotage them every chance they get, so then they don't even become aware or don't even remember how to do anything that they have ever once done. Because I'm pretty sure if you left us alone, somebody gonna remember how to build that Sphinx again. I'll be one of them niggas. We'll remember how to do it again. Shit, some of us already know how to do it, but some black people is actually scared and play down their intellect, so they don't say nothing. And then some black people know that the rest of the black niggas they kind of a lost. Some of them is a lost cause. So it's like, you ain't gonna be speaking up too much and get your ass knocked off like Tesla and all them, Nikola Tesla and because you know how to figure out how to harness energy from the constellations using certain points on this planet Earth to build a damn, like how the pyramid was. Black people know how to do that today. But again, I keep telling you, rather than harness free energy, let me just move on. But y'all get the point. So now you see why, all this slavery stuff had to happen. Because look at what, and we gonna keep going, but look at what I done shared with you so far. Now let's go. So now we got Percy Julian. He was a research chemist. He was a pioneer in chemical synthesis of medicinal drugs from plants. He was the first to synthesize the natural product physostigmine. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And he was a pioneer in industrial large-scale chemical synthesis of the human hormones, steroids, progesterone, testosterone from plant sterols such as stigmasterol and cystosterol. guess what? His work laid the foundation of the steroid drug industry for cortisone, corticosteroids, and birth control pills. So he had that mind to study those medicinal plants and see how you can, form those compositions, for steroids and stuff. So we owe Percy Julian, praise. We thank him for his contribution. A lot of times they steal that research and use it for nefarious purposes. But I'm pretty sure he was wanting to study plants and shit. He just was looking at them plants and really inspired by their makeup, because a lot of these herbs, they do so much for your body and they make you feel real good. Like, I'm eating some sage right now. Raw sage, not, just got the plant, how it look all furry and stuff and got that real strong smell. I mean, just eat you some raw ass sage one day. Eat you some raw rosemary one day. And you're going to be like, what the heck happened? It make you feel like you done, smoked a spliff or something. But anyways, it's a Black American series, so we keeping it, real intellectual today. So Percy Julian, he was so admired. He was so inspired by those plants. So we thank him for his contribution to medicine. Once again, this is a Black American. We thank you, Percy Julian. So that we got Alcorn George Edward Jr. He was in 1940. He's still alive. He was a physicist and he was an inventor. So he was a scientist. And he invented the method of fabricating and imaging the X-ray spectrometer. He worked for NASA and IBM, and he's in the National Inventors Hall of Fame. So we thank you. And he is still alive. And he is still alive. So we thank him very much for his invention. And now you can't talk about inventions unless you talk about Benjamin Banneker. And Benjamin Banneker was born 1731, 1806. We know he was an almanac, he was an inventor, he was an author, he was an astronomist. So he is the one that constructed the wooden clock and invented the clock. And he assisted in the survey of the original boundaries of Washington, D.C. And he mapped out Washington, D.C. by memory, because he was an occultist. He was from the Dogon tribe. He was stolen. His parents were slaves. He was born a slave. They stole him for the Dogon tribe. He was a descendant. They kept his blood, preserved his blood and stuff, because he was working with Thomas Jefferson and basically all the four founders, the four fathers of the country. Thomas Jefferson and what's the other dude, Thomas Paine, all them, whoever he was working with them, and they was kind of looking like, okay, yeah, this supposed to be, this descendant of slave. His mom was a slave. He's a slave, but he's a genius, and we actually need him to map out Washington, D.C. We need him because he was scoped and all that stuff that that they know about in Egypt, because these people was practicing masonry. So they was using him for his genius, and then they preserved one of his bones or something and figured out his haplogroup hundreds of years later, because they still wanted to know how could he be so brilliant like that. And they found out, okay, he was from the Dogon tribe, from the Star Sirius. That's all deep and stuff. That's way too deep probably for the average Black American, but just, just know. And he did so many almanacs. He was a naturalist. He loved to study the honeybees and the cicadas. Oh, I love cicadas. They're so friendly. But the cicada, that one that shed they skin and they look big and they look like they bite. They don't bite you at all. I do the little kids out there to be putting the cicadas in their mouth because they buzz and they spit them out in the South. Like, these little kids do be doing that. That's what Benjamin Banneker loved to study in his spare time. So you see, the natural nature of the Black human is to love nature. They love studying the honeybee, just like we just talked about Percy Julian, how he was studying all them damn plants and stuff, and he was and generated so much research that the modern world is using from studying nature. You got to be in tune with nature, and that's what he would do. And he made the almanac off of those creatures, the honeybee and the cicada. So we love Benjamin Banneker. We know that we couldn't do nothing without his contributions. You know, I mean, the world would look differently, basically, because that clock. I mean, come on. So, and Washington D.C. would not have looked like that, because basically Washington D.C. is mapped off of Egypt. It's mapped off of occult science, astronomy, ancient African history. And since the white guys couldn't do it, you know, Thomas Jefferson and them, because they don't have that epigenetics, they don't have that makeup in their bloodlines. They have different bloodlines. So they used him to map that shit off of how it was in Egypt, straight up. And he did it straight from his mind. And they still couldn't understand, okay, where's your pen and paper? Ain't you supposed to be, you know, sketching and architecture and some shit? You know, you're supposed to do some architecture, drafting and schematics to... They was like, no, it's all in my mind. It's all in my mind. And they was like, how is it all in your mind? Because I am a descendant of one of the most special tribes. All tribes are special, okay, you know, in God's eyes. But you know, he was a descendant of the doggone tribe. Of people who are very, very close to nature, and they love studying the universe. They love studying astronomy. And they believe they come from Sirius Star. That's the ones that knew about the constellations and dwarf planets and stars and all this stuff that can't be seen with the naked eye, that you need a satellite to see. They can't even be seen with a telescope. These people saw it because they said God gave them information. So God was giving information to Benjamin Banneker and to all these inventors, Vladimir, Percy Julian, all of them that I just named, Frederick McKinley. God giving information to these people. So let's keep going. So now we got Patricia Bath in 1942, and she just died in 2019. So this is our ancestor now. And she was a black American physician. She received a patent, you know, for the cataract surgery and the laser phaco probe, which, as we know, revolutionized the industry in the 1980s. And it's an ultrasound technique for treatment. So Patricia Bath, we thank you so much for such an amazing contribution to humanity, and we are honored to have you a part of our tribe. We are honored that you are our ancestor, you know, and all these things that our people had to go through. And now you see why they was wanting to enslave your consciousness and your physicality. Now you see why. This is ravenous jealousy. I kept telling y'all that anybody that did not feel a threat would not be checking for you. I kept telling y'all asses that for years now. So let's continue. Now we got Henry Blair, 1807 to 1860. He was the second black American inventor to receive a U.S. patent. Now they niggas been inventing, but we talking about, you know, they wouldn't let people get black people get no patent. So he was born in Maryland, you know. He invented the seed planter in 1834, which means you get more labor and less labor, and you yield more crops in a shorter time. And then he got the cotton planter, and you know, it was one of those, you know, like those cotton gin and all that. So the seed planter is a marvelous invention, that we thank our ancestor for doing that. I keep telling y'all, if all the black Americans was out there slaving away, you don't think that they mind gonna start thinking of a way to do it quicker and faster? So he just got lucky where his shit was able to get patented by him, but it was a bunch of inventions, just so you know, that got stolen from black Americans during slavery because they were not allowed to get a patent. So we know there were so many, but there's many that was literally stolen that now we could trace back, like Jack Daniels, that whiskey that was invented by a black man, you know. But now it's like, okay, now we know for a fact, because you could study history, you get the story of how to do it, and you ask the white family, oh, how did your grandfather invent it? And they can't tell you shit. They don't know how they did it. You ask them how did they invent and come up with it, and they say, oh, it was some guy that I got the recipe from, or it was some guy that showed me. Then you look the guy up and it was a damn slave on their property. So that's how this shit went, you know. So Henry Blair, we thank you so much for all of your contribution. So now we got Henry Brown. You could tell these are the black American names from the lineage. Henry Brown. He was born in 1832. They don't even have a record of when he died. They don't even really have much on his profile, because he invented the fire safe. But as we know, most likely stole, try to steal his invention, but we now know about Henry Brown. So we thank Henry Brown for his contribution to humanity. And now we're going to go with Oscar Brown. We just only know that he was born in the 1800s. We don't even have a date of when he was born or died. But he received a patent for the horseshoe. Now we got Albert John Burr. Once again, no 1800s. No official date of birth. No official date of death. Most likely a slave. But guess what? The lawnmower. So let's move on. We thank you, ancestors. We thank you, John Albert Burr and Oscar Brown. We have to keep your memories alive. Keep these people memories alive and thank them. Just share this video as much as possible so that we can give them as much energy on the other side, because they're hurting now because they don't like the way our community is acting right now. They want you believing in yourself again. So let's keep going. So now we got John Jackson Jr., 1953, and he died in 2007. And he was an electrical engineer and an inventor. Guess what he invented? Imaging X-ray spectrometer. He was a NASA engineer, and he was Army civilian engineer as well. So we thank John Jackson Jr. for his contribution to science and to humanity. So let's keep going. These are all Black Americans that we love so dearly, and that are our ancestors, and they do look out for us on the other side. Now, the one I'm about to tell you now, she's still alive. And her name is Dr. Shirley Jackson. Now, she was born in 1946, and she is still alive. And she did a lot of work with MIT. She developed technologies that invented the touch tone telephone, portable fax, solar cells, fiber optic cables, and the technology that creates the caller ID and call waiting. That is Dr. Shirley Jackson. Many people are very, very jealous of her, and they are trying to play down her shit now because, she's getting older in age, and they do that, once the person passes away, they try to take it away, they contributions. But this is what she has contributed. She is still alive, and let's give her flowers while she's still here. Why we not praising her, in those rap songs? Y'all always want to put it, talking about all these stupid shit in the rap songs. Why nobody got her name in their rap song? Huh? That's what I want to know. So instead of rapping about lean and all that stupid shit, put Dr. Shirley Jackson on the shout out in your song. Now let's move on, and we thank her. Samuel Coombs, 1930 to 1981. He was a surgeon. He was a transplant surgeon. He pioneered the renal transplant research and surgery. And guess what? He authored 172 articles in scientific publications that you can find today. So we thank you for your science contributions, for your genius pioneering in renal transplant surgery. We thank you so much for that, Samuel Coombs. So now we got Henry Charles Turner, 1867 to 1923. He was a zoologist. He was the first person to prove, and in the world, probably, this probably was done 10,000 years ago, but we lost that history when we got enslaved. But he was the first person to prove that insects can hear and can distinguish pitch, and that cockroaches learn by trial and error, and that honeybees can see color. And he got his PhD, but even without the PhD from University of Chicago, he would have been a genius anyways, because what did he do? What did he do, Black people? Studied nature. Now you notice the trend that these people that study these bees and these stuff, like I just was telling you about Benjamin Banneker and Percy Julian. Now we got Henry Charles Turner. So when you study in nature, you're getting closer to God. You're getting closer to your true self. You're getting closer to yourself. So that's why they're able to do such things and discover so many things. Our ancestors, these descendants of slaves, who some of them were even slaves, born as slaves, and they still knew that they were the chosen people, and that's why they could study that nature and do great things in spite of all the craziness that was being thrown at them. They was getting all types of horrific things happening to him, but God still kept his hands in her hands, in their hands, on the Black American. And that's what you need to understand in 2020. And y'all need to put these people in y'all songs and making shows about them, cartoons and all this shit. You know, they want you to keep their memory alive, doing offerings, doing ancestor offerings and stuff once a year for them, remembering their birthday and shit. Just do something simple. Make these black kids make a poem about these inventors that are in transition, so that we can get more power from the other side. So we thank you, Henry Charles Turner. So now let's go to Charles Drew. He was 1904 to 1950. That's when he was born, 1904. And he was a physician, and he developed the blood bank. So we love Charles Drew for the things that he has done. And guess what? He helped those blood banks. They were used in World War II. They were able to save thousands of lives, even in the Allied forces. So this Black American, you know, this was amazing that he did that. And his blood bank, it was used in Britain. It was used for the Red Cross. So this is what these are what my ancestors contributed to this planet Earth. And y'all y'all coming over here disrespecting my fucking tribe like that. That's why the Black American wants his and her own ethnicity. Y'all stop leeching off of our fucking ancestors and culture. And we want our own group to ourselves. We want our own people. We want to be close to our ancestors, not have them all over the world. Y'all disrespecting our culture, stealing from us, acting like you a Black American while being jealous and all that. That's done. That spirit is done. We tired of them spirits around us. Those leeching, colonizing spirits. We don't want none of that shit around our people anymore. This is what our ancestors saying. They have been hurt by this system and hurt, and they still strive, and they still kept going. And that's what they trying to tell us. But they saying y'all gotta gatekeep and clean house, and y'all gotta become that genius again, because God does have his hands on the Black American, and the goddess got her hands on the Black American. So this is why we are making this series, because we want to honor our ancestors. We want to honor Black American lineage and bloodline and historical ties, because now it's a whole different mixture of blood from the rest of anybody on the planet. So you're an outsider if you are not from that 600-year lineage. So if you want to come, if you are a Black person, the African diaspora in the Caribbean, if you want to be genuine and come in our culture, we will welcome you with open arms. But one ounce of disrespect, and you better tell us. We're gonna ask you: are you a Black American? Do you have a 600-year lineage in this country? At least we go. Do you have at least a 600-year lineage in this country, and a descendant of American chattel slavery? So let's keep going. And again, we thanking you, Charles Drew. So now we got one of my favorites, Garrett Morgan, 1877 to 1963. And as we know, Garrett Morgan invented the gas mask. He's an amazing inventor. Guess what else he did? Traffic light, as we know. And as you know, this is our ancestor that we love. He also did hair care products. A lot of people don't know that. He did a lot of hair care products. And a lot of straightening. Now I don't agree with all that straightening, but he did do that. And guess what? His gas mask was used in the 1916 tunnel construction disaster rescue. If it wasn't for that gas mask, them people would have died. So he was born in Kentucky, okay, and his father was a freed slave. His father was a slave. His mother was a slave, named Elizabeth Reed. She was the daughter of Garrett Reed. And guess what? Part Native American. And they got this documented. I'm telling you, anybody that did anything in our country, and any Black American that did anything in our country, all of their specimens, letters, anything that they have done, including a piece of their genetics and bone, they're locked away in votes. I've been in one of those votes, if I'm lying. I seen a vote with 3 million Black American artifacts in them. That was in a vote underground. Like a big, you go to see that big ass bank, that bank vote. It look like that big old door. That's how that shit look. You needed like fingerprints to get inside. They study us like a motherfucker because they know who you was taken from and they know who you are. So Garrett Morgan, we thank him so much. These are our ancestors. Now he was born of a slave, and look what he was able to do. And now you see why. And we love him for what he has done. We love him. So now we got Otis Boykin. He's another popular one. 1920 to 1982. Guess what he developed? The IBM computer and the pacemaker for the heart. So Otis Boykin, we thank you so much. We are so proud that you are our ancestor, and we are so grateful for your genius and your contribution to humanity. This is what we love, and this is what we need to be known for. I told y'all I'll start making these books and cartoons about these people so that we can keep their memory alive and stop thinking that you just was some crack era baby or some shit, and know your lineage and who you came from. So let's keep going. So now we have Lita Newman. She is known for the 1898 patent for the hairbrush. She designed the brush to improve ventilation so it can prevent infection of the head. You know how Europeans get lice. They get infection of their heads, ringworms in their heads. So they was loving, even to this day, they use this type of, you know, them brushes with the bristles, and they got them holes in it, and it's lined up. You see the Conair, go and look at a Conair brush, not the black man brush that for the waves, not that brush. We talking about the one with that's lined, go vertical. The bristles are in a straight line, and it got like a space in between each bristles, and it got the little holes in them. That's what she did because she didn't want the infections on the head. This was in 1898, and it was designed to remove to keep the scalp cleaner. So we thank her for that. So this is just but a small amount of American inventions, because the video will be really long if we just kept going. But just know that we have some pretty major inventions. And this is what the Black American is known for. You are a special people and a very unique group of people to have put up with the shit to have gone through what you went through for 400 years and still be here, still keep it moving, and still thriving and keeping your head to the sky and believing in God and wanting to be in tune with nature. So don't ever let nobody tell you that you have not done anything and that you're not worthy. And this is what is special about you. Keep your resiliency and keep your head up to the sky. And these are our ancestors that we must honor and that we must adore. Now, some of them are still alive, and we didn't cover them all because we know that Mark Dean owns 8 patents to the computer. We know that the Super Soaker was invented by a black man. Now, there's so much more that we can just go along the lines. We know that the sewing machine was invented by a black person. Yes, the sewing machine. The bed frame was invented by a black person. So was the dresser. Now, we're going to keep going and going. Of course, the air conditioner. So these are the things that the Black American has contributed to the world, and of course to science. And all we get is more racism and hatred from these other groups that we don't even know about, that are benefiting off of our inventions to this day, and benefiting off of our struggle to this day, while simultaneously being very jealous of us and having hatred in their hearts and disrespect in their hearts towards us. So that stops now. Stick with one another and love one another. Okay? And keep your head to the sky. So I'm going to talk to y'all later. Bye.